UKMotorTalk at the SMMT Regional Test Day, South 2024.
Not actually that sunny, is it? We don't really need these. Slight wishful thinking, wearing sunglasses. But hey, well, look, pays to be optimistic.
I think it's going to absolutely tip it down. So what we thought we would do, actually, where are we? We never said, did we? We're here. We're at we're Thruxton, in fact, which is wet, cold, and this is the second time we've been here this year without being on track, which is mad. We thought, as some useful consumer advice, as the weather is pretty terrible right now, that what we would do is drive the kind of cars that you're likely to be driving in this kind of weather. So we're starting with what?
We're going to start with a Lotus Emira, and what have we got later on? We've got convertibles and things like that, haven't we? MG Cyberster.
Yes.
And maybe a BMW Z4 as well.
Yes. So stay tuned. We've got some other stuff to show you. And if you're listening on the podcast, well, welcome along. Oh, ye of little faith, the sun is shining, and, well, we're in a Lotus, which is a sunny place to be anyway, isn't it?
It's always a good day when you're in a Lotus, I think.
The last Lotus I drove was an Exige, and it didn't feel like this. This is incredibly plush inside.
It's very well appointed.
Can you see? Look at this, look. Look at it. Oh, it's nice. We can't see a huge amount. I will show you this in a moment. Cue the cutaway. Off we go.
Can't see that mirror.
Oh, that's a problem.
It is. Trying to see if there's a speed limiter of some sort. Pardon?
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm not sure I understand. Could you repeat it?
No.
Are you okay?
I'm not sure I understand. Could you repeat it?
There we go.
Let me know when you need me.
Okay. Well, this is a bit different from the last Lotus I drove. Oh, small tunnel. Still sounds good, like a Lotus always does. This is very well appointed in here, isn't it? I mean, initial impressions just from hopping in, the Spartan, slightly agricultural finish of old has disappeared, and we've got some beautiful leather in here, some lovely suede, some rather nice materials. It's quite a nice place to sit, this, isn't it? But the noise is still there, the drama's still there. I really am quite happy here. This has just got something about it. You just hop in it and you can feel this is done with passion. This is rather excellent. This sublime, isn't it? It's a magic carpet, isn't it?
You wouldn't expect it, would you? It's really quite compliant. It's, as a passenger, you'd expect to be chucked around a bit. You'd expect to be a bit choppy, but it just isn't. It's great. This thing's makes a decent enough noise. It has the 2-litre turbo engine, makes a bit of noise. Perhaps not quite all the noise of the Toyota V6, but you've got to think there's going to be some tunability there, isn't there?
The gearbox is having a funny 5 minutes.
So 360 brake horsepower, automatic box in this one. 0 to 60 is about 4.5, just under 4.5 seconds, so it's not slow. And it's, well, about £82,000 up it sits, so
the gearbox has got a mind of its own at the moment, though. It can't decide what gear it wants to be in.
Oh, what is happening?
Right, quieten it down a bit so you can hear it.
You want to hear the noise, you don't really want to hear us, do you?
Actually, yeah, the noise of this is probably more interesting than us yakking away, isn't it?
Yes. Let me show you a bit more of the interior. And sorry if you're listening to this rather than watching it, but definitely check out our YouTube. So, digital dash, flappy paddles with an auto box, and everything is just, really nicely finished. Not necessarily the softest, but if you've ever been in a Lotus or driven a Lotus, you'll kind of know what they're like inside, and generally not like this. It's got excellent climate control, a decent sound system, and just lots of nice little details, really. I guess perhaps if you're spending that kind of money, that's going to be what you want. But I will say this is a car that looks more expensive, much more expensive than it is. Well, you see the outside of this car, well, it has proper supercar looks, doesn't it? Right, my turn. And, wait, it's great. First things first, this is easier to get in and out of than older Lotus, I have to say. It was used to have a massive sill, and you had to sort of wedge yourself in sideways. This is different. I'm also wearing big boots today, and the pedal box is also huge. I was expecting that to be small, but this isn't. This is, well, I would say much more usable at this point. It does have a massive steering wheel, which I don't particularly like. And
It's it's quite big, isn't it? It's quite chunky as well. You need reasonably large hands to hold up or grip all the way round it, don't you?
and I don't. I have relatively small hands, I suppose. Older Lotuses, smaller steering wheel, and I actually would prefer that better. But that said, I can't really complain, can I? This is fantastic.
Dash display. I don't know how well we will be able to see that on camera. But again, that's another possibly first for Lotus, is the digital display. I quite liked it. I thought it was all easy to read, big rev counter at the top, you know what gear you're in, what speed you're doing. I'm sure there's loads of other bits and pieces we can muck around with in the middle. Sat-nav infotainment, a little bit clunky and slow. I would hope that it has CarPlay or Android Auto of some description, doesn't it? I would think. Quite sure. It's tried to chat to us a couple of times and said it doesn't really know what's happening, but I'm sure you could work on that. Yeah, I think what this is instantly hop in it, and it's a lot more just usable. I think you just get in it, press a button and go, don't you? It's a lot more accessible, and I think a lot less intimidating for it.
It's a lovely place to sit in, and as you say, it's not intimidating at all. You get the feeling that even as a layman, you could jump on this thing and drive with relative pace, and well, not particularly embarrass yourself.
It does have CarPlay, it does have Android Auto, but I think probably more excitingly, it's got two things here: performance and lap timer, which are nice buttons. I'm going to press them. Again, not quite sure how well you'll see this, but we've got a G meter and what the aerodynamics are doing, which is very good, and power and torque and bits and pieces like that, and proper buttons for the temperature and for fan speed and things like that, which is really nice. And we've got play and pause and physical buttons for the volume. So actually the bits that you press on a day-to-day basis and you want to use all the time are real buttons, which I think is nice, isn't it?
Definitely. Here's one thing I will say though, this is slightly irritating. Obviously this is a car with the engine in the back, so you've got a glass screen behind you, the engine behind that, which is great. And that would be a fantastic view, apart from the fact that what I can really see is the light from the windscreen hitting that middle bit and bouncing back, so I can't really see what's behind me. Luckily, the side mirrors are, well, excellent actually.
And that's quite a nice profile to have out to the side mirrors, isn't it? We do quite like that.
It definitely is. Now, in terms of if you wanted to drive this thing every day, of course you could. We're sat here in 7th gear presently at the moment, and it's quiet, it's composed, the ride is really refined.
I think there's another gear if you want.
So there is 8 gears. Who'd have thought it?
It felt to me though like you needed, if you're in 8th gear and you accelerate, it does absolutely nothing.
Yes, you need to drop it down 2 or 3 before it gets moving. We are just overtaking a tractor. And then go back up through the gears. I guess if you have it just in manual mode, sure, why not?
Thruxton village, I don't think it's actually near Thruxton.
Does it feel like 360 horsepower? Yes, probably.
with it.
Where is it? There. Oh, I know.
Ah, yeah, here we are. Yeah, it does seem to have a nice flick in between personalities, doesn't it? If you want to, oh, there we go, we can see the dash display a bit better there. If you want to put your foot down and make a load of noise and be a bit raucous, then you can be. If you just change up a few gears, it all seems to quieten down, doesn't it? Shall we try some of the different drive modes? So we've got Sport, Track and Tour. We're now in ultimate performance. Ooh, the display has changed.
Look at that. I like that.
So now I assume that's pure manual mode, so it won't change at all for you. One would assume.
Anything behind me? I can't tell if there's anything behind me because I can't see out the back window.
Nope.
Yeah, it just stays in gear. It's definitely a bit firmer.
Tour, which is simplified performance as it describes it. It's probably a bit more automatic, a little bit calmer, isn't it?
Definitely is. Everything feels more compliant, really, at this speed. This is a nice bit of road. Love little chuffs and wheezes. Just down a couple of gears. Lotus way. This is where they're at home, really, isn't it? Going through a nice, twisty, curvy bit of road. It'd be nice to have it on a circuit, though, wouldn't it? Really.
We are heading to a racetrack. That is the crying shame of this whole thing, isn't it? We are literally in a circuit car park.
We definitely are. Yeah, and it would be just really quite nice to be able to take this thing out and let it off the chain, give it the full sausage, egg and beans and see what it can really do, but of course you can't. The fact that you can enjoy this car on the road at speeds which are, well, road speeds, that's the important thing, isn't it? Surely if you buy this car, yes, you might take it to a track day, and I can completely understand why, but the truth of the matter is, most of the time you're going to be driving on the road, and most of the time you're going to be aiming for a B road, and this car is very at home here. But if you decided you want to use this as your car, you could. You can get in and out of it easy enough. You could wear whatever you like. You don't need to wear small shoes if you decide to take it out for a drive, which of course is the case with some toys, and you can understand the reason why. You can be at a comfortable temperature so you're not sweating buckets because you've got air conditioning and presumably heating. And yeah, it's very compliant if you want it to be.
I don't like this. Bonging at me all the time, and I have no idea why it's bonging. It's infuriating. It's okay. Well, let's focus on the positives. We are in the MG HS hybrid of some sort.
Yes.
It's very quiet. Put your foot down it. It eventually gets going and something happens and you sort of move along at speed. It bongs me all the time and I have no idea why it's bonging. And it just beeps and bongs at you and it's infuriating. And you can't work out how to turn the radio down because there's no actual physical buttons for everything. Everything's on the touchscreen. But why are you bonging? Why are you bonging at me now? What have I done? What's wrong? I'm not speeding, it's a 50 mile an hour limit. I'm doing... Stop bonging. Stop bonging. Stop bonging. Stop bonging at me. Thank you. Nothing has changed, but everything is now well, so the car is not bonging at me anymore. Yeah, I mean, the seats are comfy. I think they're quite squishy. They're heated, which is nice. It's got a nice big boot. There's loads of room in it. Steering's a bit numb, but you sort of tell it to go left, it goes left. You tell it to go right, it goes right. Bongs at you in between doing all of those things. Should we go? Let's go this way, see what happens. It'll probably bong at me in a minute. I can't decide though if the seats are sort of 90s Renault spec, comfy and squidgy, so maybe initially comfy to sit in and after a while might give you a bit of backache, but I think they're right to sit in and start off, aren't they? Loads of room in it. It's not bonged at me for 3 minutes, so maybe I'm starting to like it, I'm not sure.
Yes, and if you've been following us for a while, you'll know exactly how this works. Usually we take it in turns to drive a car. We drive around for a bit, we tell you a bit about it, and we only get the cars for about half an hour, which makes this quite tricky because it's difficult to get to know them properly. So when we say the seats are squidgy, they are squidgy and they are pretty comfortable, but long journey, who knows?
Well, I've just hopped out of the MG because I got bored of the bonging, to be honest. It bonged at me when I got out. It hasn't bonged at you yet though, has it? It seems quite happy with what you're doing.
Pilot error.
Yeah, obviously he likes you and doesn't like me. I think having got out of it is just, it's okay, isn't it? You got a steering wheel to go left and right and 2 pedals to go quicker or slower. That's about it, isn't it? I'm sort of struggling to see too much else with it. I mean, there's plenty of room in it. It's comfy. It's okay. Is it just, I don't know, after driving a Lotus, this is just a bit sedate, really, I think, isn't it? Maybe we should have driven this first and then the Lotus.
Yeah, I think maybe you've been a bit unkind here, because I think that this is, I'm not an SUV person, as we know, but this is quite sharply styled, it's quite comfortable, I think it's pretty well appointed, all the bits are there. Admittedly, they're all buried in a touchscreen, and touchscreens I find pretty irritating all round, not just in this car, in every car, to be honest, but the fact that climate control bits disappear I find tricky, and I also find it really irritating there isn't a volume control that the passenger can turn down, because I'd like to be able to turn the radio down.
Yeah, how do I turn the radio up and down? I can't, can I?
No. However, that said, this is a family car and it's a bit roly-poly and it's a bit squidgy, but you know what, it's really quite comfortable. Unlike some of the really heavy SUVs, the secondary ride's fine, it doesn't thunder into a bump and then bounce on about it for the next 3 weeks. It's just a comfortable, cruisy, wafty kind of car. And if that's what you want, to put your kids in the back of and your dog in the back, then that's probably fine. Being a hybrid, it's got some electrical assistance and the performance is pretty good. It's not quite so thrashy as some other cars. And having driven a Cougar PHEV recently, would I say that this is miles and miles away from it? No, not at all. I think it probably comes down to personal preference, whether you prefer the interior of this or the Cougar. I would say the interface in the Cougar is definitely easier, and I would say that the interior quality in the back of this, much like the Cougar, is probably a little bit scratchy in places, but do you know what? I think if you're going to sit here on a motorway and you're going to bob around town and that's what you're going to use it for, great. No, it definitely doesn't have the dynamics of the Lotus. Perhaps that's not so much of a surprise, because otherwise perhaps I'd be a bit unkind to the Lotus. But now that we know where we're going, because we figured out how to use the sat-nav, which is, let's face it, a lot of the stress removed, it's fine. It's a bit, yeah, it follows where you want it to go. There's not a huge amount of steering feel, but would you expect it with electric power steering in this type of car? Maybe, maybe not.
It does have, in common with every other car we've driven today, I'm going to turn this around so you can see it, a slightly square steering wheel. Why? Why are all steering wheels square these days? What's happened? Why have we felt the need to reinvent the wheel?
This is really irritating, I have to say, because I like to drive with my hands somewhere up the top here, like this. And when you're manoeuvring, particularly, not just when you're driving along, it's just particularly irritating, because you want to be able to, I'm going to let these people cross, go on, off you go. Because you want to be able to put your hands on the steering wheel where you want them when you're cruising along, and when you're manoeuvring, you want to be able to shuffle your hands around the wheel without having to take them off. In something like the Lotus, you can kind of understand it, because you might spend some of your time, or most of your time, on the track. In this, not quite so sure that's the case. I think I'm going the wrong way here though. I'm going to go this way. Whee! But yeah, otherwise, the car's the car is quite literally fine. I don't dislike it, but then I don't particularly like SUVs anyway. Not a great review, that, is it? I think if you're looking for
I think it's a perfectly okay review for a perfectly okay car. This is just perfectly okay.
I think that we're being unkind here, because the truth of the matter is, if you want this type of car, you should probably look at this car. It's going to be cheaper than the other types of cars from the traditional makes, which you come to know and expect. It's just as comfortable as they are. It's probably just as well built as they are. You've got a ridiculously good warranty that lasts for a good period of time. The displays are clear. The one in front of me is great with the nav. I've got the nav here, and I've also got it directly in front of me. And now that that's on and online, that's pretty good.
I'll also point out we've got 3.5 miles before we need to turn off. So if you want to open her up and see what she can do.
Here we go. We're going to go for an overtake. Do you know what? It's fine. It's got the power that you need to pull you where you want to go, and it's certainly no worse than anything else that runs a small capacity 1.5, 1.2 litre engine that we drive with cars of this type. Does it set the world alight? No. Is it a replacement for something like, I don't know, a DBX? No, because it's not that kind of car. Is it an equal car to something like a Cougar or a Qashqai, cars that people are going to buy and put their kids into? Yes, it absolutely is, and it is perfectly good at doing that. There's a wireless charger down here in the centre. It's got auto hold.
Did it just bong at you?
It did just bong at me.
Excellent. Good.
Because I'm talking to you as well as watching where I'm going. I'm focusing on where I'm going first and foremost at what point it's out. But like everything with driver assistance tech, of course, it's constantly monitoring your progress.
So the question is, would you what's your anonymous generic SUV box thing that you have?
It is a Seat Ateca.
Ateca.
So I don't have it. My wife has it.
Would you buy one of these to replace it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's it. It's job done then, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's bonging at you again. Would you rather have one of these than a Qashqai?
Oh, God, yes.
Yes, there we are. It's job done, isn't it? So yes, actually, for what it's set out to be and what it's designed to be, actually, yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? To be fair. And the seats I do think are comfy.
They are definitely comfy.
Yeah, the seats are comfy.
Don't bother with the Qashqai. Save the extra money. Put it in your pocket. Buy one of these instead, and then buy a track day toy with the rest if you want to go out and enjoy something to drive.
Is a Qashqai more expensive than this?
Yes.
Why do people buy Qashqais?
Tell us in the comments.
Have you bought a Qashqai? Tell us.
Have you been affected by Qashqai?
Your battery level may no longer be accurate.
Well then.
How about that?
It happens to us all as we get older. Why is it bonging at you?
I wanted to see what it would do if I went to the lane in the middle, to the white line. There's nothing alongside me. Watch. Here we go. So this has got driver assistance tech like every new car. Some of them steer. This one, I wanted to see what it would do, and it's vibrating.
Oh, that's a new bong. That's not the bong I had earlier.
No. I want, yeah, all the bongs. We're coming off here. Goodbye. I think we probably could have cut that some time ago. EV9. Here we go. It's a big old beast, isn't it? Look at this.
First impressions. Well, it's raining a lot. The wiper blades are very good, so that's good. And it's been bonging at me a bit, but I think we've just worked out how to turn most of those off. First impressions, it's big, isn't it? It's very big. I quite like it. For one of these, I think it's slightly different to some SUVs, just I think by nature of the size of it, isn't it? I mean, you're a long way away. I can smack you in the head if I feel so inclined, but it's a bit more of a stretch, but you can't reach the screen, can you? So
I can now. So hello, it's raining now. I've moved the seat all the way forward. It's probably raining. I should explain, for continuity reasons, I'm wearing a coat. I can now touch the screen, but I've had to put my seat all the way forward, which is less comfortable. That's irritating as a passenger.
the seats in this are very comfy, though.
They are super comfy.
They're very good seats.
Yes. There's a lot of tech up here. There's a lot of screens as well. So a big touch screen in the centre with, I assume, touch-sensitive buttons underneath. Good. Not particularly touch-sensitive buttons underneath. We're just trying to press the button to make it work. Come on.
Press the button.
Come on. Pressing the button.
What would be...
But at least there is a
play
proper
classic
volume knob.
FM?
Well, you've just pressed the media button, but there's a volume knob so you can at least turn it down. I've got to show you this because this is... Look at this. Filthy conditions. The things that we do to bring you road tests, eh? At least we're not on the convertibles yet.
I like the regen on the paddles, that's quite good, so you can dial those up. I'm currently in iPedal Max, whatever that means. I think that means all the regen. We can do 0 to 1, 2, 3 or max, so... Other than that, what do you say about them really? It goes left and goes right, the steering's not particularly communicative, but it's raining a hell of a lot now. Hopefully you can still hear it.
Well, what can we say about it? It's a £65,000 Uber SUV with a lot of space, a lot of seats, and lots of nice touches in terms of lighting and trim. It's quite nicely appointed. I'm not a massive fan of the 90s spec grey, I have to say. The grey does remind me of Kias of the 90s and early noughties, which were fine. Yeah, reasonable wipers. It is nice to have some physical buttons on the dashboard so you can adjust the climate control from the bottom. Ah, there we go. Oh no. No.
So what have we decided? Well, lack of steering feel is good when you're aquaplaning.
Absolutely
well, it's bad.
not. Yes.
It's bad, is it? Although, is it better not to know that you're about to die?
It is wetter than an otter's pocket out here, and there's some pretty deep water. And I went through some pretty deep water, and this is a heavy car. And you think, you'll probably be okay. And because I don't want to crash into oncoming traffic, I had to stay on my side of the road. And of course, the car just decided it wanted to go to the left, which is fine. But I have no idea whatsoever what the car's doing through this enormous steering wheel, which is sort of a bit shaped like a sloth, but not quite as bad as the previous ones. But again, it's hugely chunky. What is with these super chunky steering wheels?
Do you have just very small hands? I found it quite nice.
Well, that's fine, but not everyone has giant man hands, do they? I have very delicate man hands, as it turns out. But on the other hand, this is very comfortable. It's like driving an armchair. Very comfy. If you think sort of the older Land Rover, Range Rovers, like the L322 sort of seat, it reminds me a lot of that, to be completely honest.
There's a lot of puddles down this road.
There's a lot of puddles. Well, the other problem is that this is quite a big car, so you haven't got a choice but to go through every pothole and every puddle.
Yes, I found that if you're on your side of the road, you're taking up pretty much the entire lane, aren't you? I think.
Yes,
it's fair to say.
Following the Lotus Emira we drove earlier in front, or one very much like. I think that's the V6 actually in front. We drove the 2.
I'd rather be in that, if I'm honest.
Yes, but that looks a lot smaller. It is a lot smaller, but you can see what I mean. We are taking up most of this road. Some other observations about this thing then. Well, it is quite comfortable. It is also quite expensive at £65,000. And there is a lot of tech in it. There's also a huge amount of information. I have to say, coming to this the first time round, just jumping in the seat and driving off and not really looking at it, well, there's just a lot going on. What is excellent though is if you decide to indicate, it has a little blind spot monitoring thing, so you can see if there is a cyclist in your blind spot. More floodwater coming up. So if you've listened to our podcast recently, you'll know we've talked about floodwater and the dangers of it. It's an excellent podcast, we should listen. Uh-oh.
What is it, bonging at you?
I don't know, it's bonging because I'm doing 37 in a 40. 36 in a 40.
Bonging at you because it's wet.
Bonging at me because I'm wet.
Welcome to UK Weather Watch.
This is the Z4 M40. Hi.
Rolling?
Yeah.
Lovely. Right, I'll try not to look at the camera too much because I am looking where we are going because it is still raining. So we thought we'd come out in a convertible because why not? We're British. And it's convertible with a... I don't know what this funny thing is in the middle, but if I press this third pedal that's appeared in the pedal box and wiggle this thing around, then it changes gears. So it's nice to have a manual car, isn't it? It's a very rare thing, manual car these days. But it's quite expensive to get the manual pack, isn't it? It's how much to have a manual gearbox?
£5,325. But that does include red calipers and BMW high gloss shadow line with extended contents. Whatever that means, who knows?
Very good. I feel quite at home in here. Again, there's some actual physical buttons. There's things to press, and you can, if you want to go up and down on the temperature, there's physical buttons. You know, there's a big physical lever thing in the middle. BMW's iDrive, so that's quite handy to actually have a look at and spin around on the display so you can glance at it. But it's a nice tactile, you know, when you've gone left or right and looked at things and whatever else. So that's quite good. Sounds nice. As much as we can try out the handling and the steering and whatever else on a day like today, it's... Whoa! Very wet, and that was a very big puddle, so I'm not going to try out too much more of the steering feel of the dual carriageway. Particularly as we're coming off here anyway, to the middle wallop. Don't know if I happen to upper wallop or lower wallop. But we shall come off here, but I can't really even see the white lines on the road anymore. It's that wet, to be honest. Ooh. It's got an auto rev matching on the auto heel toe on the downshift. That's an almighty puddle. My God. I won't push it through this corner.
Under normal circumstances, a long, sweeping right-hand bend in a manual rear-wheel drive 6-cylinder BMW would probably be a joy.
That would have been very good fun. However, that massive puddle just on the exit there, I think we would have come across if we were pressing on through there. But no, apart from the... well, I'm not really going to test out the steering feedback or feel, so if I have to push it that hard, I think we will be off and there will be a rhythm just as we happen to come across that. But this feels very solid. It doesn't initially feel that convertible to me. It's very quiet in here. It's very solid. There's no scuttle shake. It's not wallowing about, is it? It's definitely a fabric roof up there, but it feels more like a tin top convertible to me. I think. What do you reckon?
Well, of course, from the passenger seat, it's not quite so easy to tell, but I will say this, and you can probably tell by the amount that the camera is moving around, this is much firmer
Jesus.
than the Emira. In terms of the way that this thing rides, it's also probably a lot more engaging because it's got a manual gearbox. But once again, well, look at it. Filthy conditions.
This car aquaplanes a lot. I don't know how wide the tyres are or if they're worn down, but this car aquaplanes a hell of a lot.
So it'd be nice to try and keep this in a straight line. Of course, what's also interesting... Otherwise, what can we say? Well, it's nice in here, as Jim's already mentioned. It doesn't really feel like a convertible. It does have the stretchy fabric top, but you wouldn't really know that you are inside something without a roof. It does feel that well composed, that quiet, and that well insulated, which is nice. The ride is a bit firmer, yes it is, but I guess you kind of expect that, and this is with a manual box, obviously has a much more driver focused sporting intent. Would you want to do all the miles in this car? Would you say, for example, reach for the keys to this instead of the Emira?
Depends on the weather. On a day like today, possibly not. Oh my God. This road is just deeply unpleasant in this car. Yeah, I think I'd like to try this on a warmer, sunnier day. It's quite hard to actually just relax and enjoy the car when it's like this. you're more I'm just concentrating more on keeping it on the road, to be fair. Even at 40 miles an hour, this thing seems to want to try and spin me off into a bush. Is that the car? Is that the weather? It wasn't like this in the Kia that we've just come through, was it? But
No, I mean the Kia did weigh approximately 7,500 tonnes.
yeah, I think that does help with aquaplaning, doesn't it? The lighter the car, the more susceptible to aquaplaning, I dare say. Well, I'll just go out, so I'm in the passenger seat. How would I sum it up? I think I quite enjoyed driving that. I think I enjoyed the road conditions that I'm driving it in, but it was quite a nice thing to drive. It's it doesn't like standing water. I like the manual gearbox. Pedal box, as with all BMWs, is massively offset to the right, isn't it?
It's outrageously offset to the point where it feels like I'm in the wrong place in the car. So my right leg
My God.
is basically over the brake pedal. So you have to go right to the right to do that. My left leg is sat on the clutch rest, which is not uncomfortable actually. But I'm not complaining because it's a joy to have a modern car with a manual gearbox. And it does a lovely little blip on downshift when you're actually cracking on, which is nice. I'm being careful, I'm not going to lie here, because the moment we touch the water, the back end twitches around like crazy. This is the Z4 M40 and it is a really nice thing to drive. I have to say, I don't notice the firmness at all in the ride from the driver's seat, so maybe that's telling. Notice it more as a passenger. Otherwise, cab's a really comfy place to be. The seat's supportive in the right places. There's lots of space for your arms. There's nice support where you want it to be, so you could use this for touring around if you wanted to. Although my thoughts are that the Emira, well, I think that was actually more comfortable, and I also think it would probably be a better car to drive around in all of the time. This, I think, that makes a great noise. I really would love to show you that, but I can't because it's raining a lot, and I think probably we shall both be killed. So let's not do that. I'd love to take the roof off as well, but I can't. Gearbox, though, I can tell you about it. That's pretty sweet. It has a rifle bolt type of action, so it's really snap, 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 snap. Almost feels a bit notchy, and I think that perhaps when it's done a few more miles than what it's done, which is, well, next to nothing, I think at that point it'll be a nicer car to drive, but it is comfy. And it's also a bit of a rare breed. I mean, what is there left now in terms of small roadsters? I mean, what is there left now in terms of small roadsters? Not a lot, really. There's the Boxster. There's the Cyberster, which we shall drive in a bit. That's electric. It's just coming from MG. There's not really a lot. Maybe a small Merc, SLK something perhaps, I don't know. So it is nice. I don't think you see so many of these type of cars around anymore, and I think if it's just you or a couple of you, well, it's quite nice to be able to enjoy it, isn't it, really? This is a great car that if you were... Oh, there's that little blip.
Does sound good, that, doesn't it?
It's right here, isn't it?
Yes.
If it's just the two of you,
Clear left.
I think you'll probably enjoy it.
What do you think to visibility out of it? I didn't find it that great, being honest. I think the A-pillar's quite obstructive. It's another big puddle.
I would agree, and I think it's not helped by the fact that the tweeters are just in the corner here. And I suppose perhaps that's the place to put them because the mirror base is there, but I wonder whether maybe they would have been better served mounting the mirrors to the doors and giving you that bit better view. I don't know whether I'm sat slightly higher than you are either, and I'm certainly further forward than you were, and perhaps that helps a bit. But yeah, I think because the pedal box for me is that far offset, I haven't got much of a choice but to be that much further over. And it does feel a bit weird, but I've got used to it, and I'm quite enjoying driving it despite the challenging conditions. What's also quite nice is there's a little button on the dash with a picture of the car. You can press that and you can turn off the driver assistance bits that constantly bong on you, which is, well, an absolute delight. So it's now like driving a car without all the bits and pieces that constantly make all the noise.
And it does seem like you would be able to configure exactly what you want turned on and turned off, and when you want them on, etc. Which is quite a nice thing, I think, being able to set up the safety features how you want, because some of them are handy, some of them maybe less so, some you want, some you don't. So being able to pick and choose, I quite like the idea of that, to be honest.
Right, well, we've stopped now, so we can actually talk about this without the fear of death, I suppose, really. It's great. It is great. I love the manual gearbox. I like the seating position. Don't like the pedal position. It's quite comfy.
I noticed the pedal position at first, but after about 3 gear changes, didn't notice it. So, I'd change it if I could, but actually, am I that worried about it? No, I didn't really notice it. I think we said on the way back, just off camera, almost ignore the price, because the price, if you can afford it, great. If you can't, wait till they come down second-hand value or whatever. You know, for some people, 60 grand is a drop in the ocean. It's nothing at all. For other people, 60 grand is all the money they have in the world and then some. So we are definitely at the second end of that scale. So I would say it's 60 grand. It's a lot of money, but if you won it, would you keep it? I think that's the giveaway. So ignore the money. If you won it in a competition, I think you'd probably keep it, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I quite like this.
It is a really nice car to drive. And if I bought one, I certainly wouldn't be disappointed, because you would have made the conscious decision to buy this and not something like a Porsche Boxster, and presumably not the Cyberster. But so you would have bought this on purpose. It makes a great noise. It feels nice, and there's quite a few nice little touches in the car. The quality feels good, except for the stitching on the dash, which is really wonky.
Let me just flip you around. I'll show you this.
Yeah, look.
So lovely. Lovely. And I don't know if you can quite pick this up on camera, but there's lots of just funny little wobbly bits in it, particularly up around there. Just the gap in the stitching all of a sudden gets very inconsistent, and it's very noticeable from the passenger seat.
Yeah, and here, for example, there on the corners particularly, it's like that. And that's the bit that you see as you're driving along. But
so I'm not sure if that's because somebody's pressed it, poked around with it, and somebody fiddled with it to do that. I'm not quite sure, but if you just spent 60 grand on the car, I think you'd be a little bit upset with that. How do you change that? New dashboard?
Yeah, get it recovered, I guess. But otherwise, a nicely appointed thing, comfortable, nice to drive, even if the conditions are terrible. Although it does tram like a hell of a lot. We can't decide whether that's because of the tyres on here being incredibly wide, or whether it's just
the weather, the aquaplaning, etc. Let's go and have a look at the tyres and see how wide they are. Because if the front tyres are 895 millimetres in width, that probably explains it, doesn't it?
And the other thing is, there's a lot of boom from those tyres, so we assume run flats, but they make a hell of a lot of noise. You get in the cabin, not because of the roof, but because of the tyres, which seems odd to me. There we go. Would I have one? I wouldn't be upset if I bought one.
No, I'd like nicer weather than today, but yeah, I'd have one. We're in the grin mode. Put your foot down. It goes well, doesn't it? It's very good. We like this.
This is enough that if you'd just eaten your lunch and your name was Andrew and you're our editor, you might just be sick.
So what is this? This is it's not a Kia. There's a man parked this in the Kia parking area earlier, and they looked most confused when he got out.
Well, they're kind of related, isn't it? It's the Ioniq 5.
It's it's pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
Well, it's not. It's incredibly quick and quite comfortable. It has some fantastically sculpted bucket seats that I'm quite enjoying.
They've got quite a nice leather, suede-y, Alcantara-y, fabric-y type stuff. We've got some nice stitching going on. All the stitching appears to be in a straight line, actually, as well, which is better than the BMW, dare I say it. And that carries on all the way down here, and it's all quite nice down here, and quite nice and soft touch. That's all quite nice. And it's quite a pleasant place to sit, and a pleasant place to be, isn't it? What's it like in the back?
Not too bad. Relatively comfortable. I wouldn't say there's loads of legroom, but that's a minor detail. I can't get my feet underneath the chair properly, so...
that seems to be a you thing, rather than a car thing.
Big feet.
Tall feet.
It does have a particularly loud wiper motor, as you pointed out to me earlier. Now I can't stop hearing it.
It does sound a bit like a strangled cat that's going around.
I seem to remember that when they made the Nissan Leaf, they had to make a new wiper motor for that because the motor was so quiet. This they obviously haven't bothered. It's a lovely car though. It's pretty light in here. The visibility, I would say, is actually pretty good. Much like the Kia EV9 we drove earlier, when you indicate, this gives you the little camera on the dashboard so you can see what's alongside you in your blind spot, which I think is a nice stuff. Oh, doing 71 miles an hour. Apologies.
Breaking the law, breaking the law.
Try not to do that again. I think if you're a performance enthusiast and you like the little dial buttons, 68 miles. Oh my word! I just pressed a button on my dashboard. Look at that.
Well, we can't see it now because the indicators
sorry.
there. What's all that motor temperature? Very
Motor
nice.
temp, battery temp. Of course, these things being important, being an electric car, of course.
This is true.
If you don't know what this is, and well, by now you probably do, this is an all-electric vehicle. So. Yeah, there's also similar bits of architecture between this and the Kia that we just drove. And that's probably not a bad thing, bearing in mind the Kia was £65,000.
How much is this?
Oh, it is some money.
Who knows? Right, we're in an electric car, yes?
We are in an electric car.
Right.
Now this car's part
What's going
of
on?
this is this. You can drop a couple of gears. And change through the gears with the flappy pedals on the back. Completely simulated, but it made me smart. I have to say, I did laugh at that.
It's very PlayStation, is it? Do I like it? I don't know. I mean, the fact you can put it in 8th and it doesn't accelerate as quick, and then you have to drop it a few gears and mind the massive puddles. Very weird. There's a bit of me that sort of wants to put a slight bit of mechanical sympathy into it and be very careful when to change gear and not going too far, but it doesn't matter, does it? You just pull the paddle whenever you want, really. But I find the fact that it'll rev limit it and stay there quite interesting. I mean, that was at 69 miles an hour in this 70 limit that we're on. So actually, you could just do your entire motorway trip like that, couldn't you? I mean, that would get to be irritating, I think, if you're doing that the whole way. But it's something a bit different, isn't it? So what does this NGB button do then? Does that give me more?
It gives you an overboost, I believe.
Oh right, let's try that. 10. So that's weird, it all went quiet. Is that so it puts its full energy into going as fast as possible?
I think what it does is it takes it out of this synthesized manual mode, puts it into a normal mode, which has no sound in this case, and then it just gives you everything. And yeah, it's startlingly quick, isn't it? Really, it's just startlingly quick. It's so startling. I am startled. I am shook.
You are shooketh.
I am shooketh. I am shooketh. I think it's most fun in the manual mode.
I can't sort of see because of the camera there.
I like that shape, Alpha.
That's his big puddle.
Here we go. Some water.
I think this is my favourite button on any car in the world ever.
The N boost button.
Yeah, I still don't really know what it stands for, but I don't know. Not good, bloody, but it's the backwards. So not bloody good, but it's the opposite, because it's the bloody brilliant button.
This whole car,
I'm going to call it the BBB. It's the bloody brilliant button.
This whole car is superb, and the changing gears thing. It does sound like Sega Rally, but it's fun. I can forgive it. It's touch-sensitive buttons and things even. just because it's just too much fun to drive.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gimmick, the gear paddle shift thing, but does it give you engagement?
Yes.
Does it give you something to do? Is it something that's nice and you work and it actually makes you feel like you're driving the car? I think one of the issues we've had in the Mach-E a few times is you're not really driving it, are you? You just sort of sat there, you tell it roughly what direction you want it to go, and particularly on the motorway, it just sits there and does it all itself. This thing, you feel like driving it a little bit more. And I think we're starting to lose the art of driving, especially with EVs. So is this the answer? Is flappy paddles in every EV the answer? MG?
Yes, the MG Cyberster. We've been excited about this.
MG in an MG?
MG and MG. We've been...
Yo, MG, I heard you like MGs. We put MG in an MG.
That's a solid indicator click, isn't it, for a start? Listen to that.
It is. So, what do we think? It's quite Teutonic in here. It's quite Germanic in here, isn't it?
It's got very Audi-style indicator and wiper stalls, I have to say.
It's quite a pleasant place to sit, though.
It is.
Quite nice. I know we've got some nice materials. There's a grab handle here if things get a little bit leery later on.
You'd mentioned just before we started filming, this is very super, in fact, in the way that it feels, isn't it?
That bit almost seems very McLaren-looking, I think. Maybe. We've got some obliterated carbon fibre, or whatever they call it, forged. Why is it beeping? Why do cars beep? You went for a gear change there, didn't you?
I did go for a gear change.
Well, the good news is what was a massive puddle is now just a reasonable puddle. So, hey, the sun's come out.
It is.
We've got sunglasses on.
We do.
Life is good.
We were tempted to have the roof down as well, but it does keep absolutely tipping it down, as we know, so... We're going to go left.
As we should. We've been down this road a few times, haven't we? Because you keep going this way instead of turning left to go back in.
That's right.
No, left. Beep.
I'm not sure why. There we are. Now at the speed limit. It's not that. Who knows? This is the thing with modern cars. They beep to tell you everything, and it takes some time to try and figure out how to turn it off. We don't have that time. So, here we go. Got blind spot monitoring. I do really like this dash where it wraps around the driver, and the same with the clusters. It's all driver focused. It actually feels really nice.
So what have we got on the steering wheel? We've got a steering wheel button on the steering wheel. So just as MG is in his MG, on his steering wheel, he has the steering wheel. What does that button do?
This one says Super Sport. I've pressed it.
Has anything changed?
Yes, we've become a Super Sport. Here we go. Well, it's got faster. Well, that picked up.
I was going to say we have
faster than I was expecting.
But we have on the display. I don't know if you can see that. We have a rev counter again.
We do have a rev counter.
Please focus on driving.
I'm literally looking at what I'm driving.
Yes, but please focus on it.
Is it because I've got sunglasses on?
But at the moment we're doing 0 RPM, which is a bit odd. Is this some kind of power? It's not a rev counter, is it? It's a power meter.
Yes, if I put my foot down a tad, let me slow down a bit.
Is it percentage of the power you're using, I suppose?
Yeah, exactly. So as I touch the throttle, it just picks itself up. So there we go, going from 68 to 70 miles an hour. Now I am stuck on 70. There we go, perfect. 69.
Why is it bonging?
Genuinely have no idea. This feels the right size to me. haven't driven everything today that's had really chunky steering wheels, or really octagonal steering wheels, or square steering wheels.
I'd say it's a flat bottom steering wheel, which is quite a nice shape, isn't it?
It is. And has really nice lines, this car. You can see the haunches of it in the rear view mirrors.
Just out for, oh my god, there's a lorry and a big puddle, and we have the roof down like a pair of twins. Well, let's go out for a nice leisurely country drive. It's nice and sedate. It's an EV. Taking the sights and the sounds.
You can hear everything,
possibly
actually.
the smells. You can hear the countryside. Plus, it can do this. Which is quite nice. But there's more. We press this button, then we can go for a nice sedate drive in the countryside. We can enjoy the sights and the sounds and go past a lorry with the roof down and get wet because we're a pair of twats. But we can also do this. That is a hell of a difference. I like the way the seatbelt ties as well when you're pressing it. That is a hell of a transformation button, isn't it? When you press that turns it from quite a docile, wafty, nice tootle around to something that's really quite savage. I like this button. It's like the button in the
Ioniq 5.
Ioniq 5. It's like that button, that nice red button on the right-hand side of the steering wheel means it's a good car, I think. I can hear some form of aircraft just over us.
That would be an Apache there, just chasing us along.
We've been chased by an Apache. Should we have a drag race with the Apache?
Yes, I think
3, 2, 1. Twisties.
It doesn't, but I will say this as a serial convertible owner, if you're tall, and I'm not tall, but you are taller than me, the roof, the windscreen height is pretty low, so you do get a bit of buffeting.
Yeah, I would like to be sat a couple of inches. Why are you beeping? I would like to sit a couple of inches lower, if I'm honest, but
You can't.
that's all we have on the seat, so unless we get the angle grinder out, I think that's about all we've got.
You basically still off the battery, I think. There's that helicopter. I think he's won.
I could drive you through the puddle, couldn't I?
Thank you. Nope.
See, I was really nice to you there.
Well, one thing we've noticed about this driver focus cabin is the passenger controls are just down here for the climbing, which is all good because I don't have to lean over to get them. We've learned this because, well, Jim kept pressing the button making my side of the cabin hot.
There's a cheeky little bit of a jape and a cable.
Yes.
We'll just point something out though. It's 23% battery left for about a quarter. 38-mile range. That's not very good.
Ooh. But how has it been driven?
Well, possibly like this. Possibly explains the slight lack of range on it. But actually, yes, 160 miles on a full charge isn't that good. But I think that's probably because lots of people have pressed the red button and then put their foot down a bit, which is exactly what we've done. Good things at taking a racing line through there.
bloody quick, huh?
Very.
Well, if you drive it onto your wagon, what I suggest you do is take it all the way down to the bottom to come all the way back up. And just see, hey, once we give you the keys, it's yours. It's yours, just don't crash it.
Well, to be honest, yesterday I have one. It was a fancy car.
We're in another car. Well, this is your car, isn't it? So we're in the Mach-E, and we're on our way home. And it was just too wet, really, to stand outside and say thank you for watching and listening to us. So we decided to get going, and yeah, thought we could talk to you about it from here. So it's been a good day, I think.
And yeah, weather's a bit variable, but the sun's going. There's some blue sky over there. The sunglasses back.
In the distance. Looks particularly moody through the glass roof, I have to say. There's been a few surprises in there, actually, I think. The Ioniq 5N.
Yes, biggest surprise to me for the day easily was the Hyundai. That was hilarious to drive.
It was. Cyberster wasn't bad either, I have to say.
I don't think I'm quite sold on the way it looks, though. I think it's all right. I don't think it's certainly not as good looking as the Emira. Is that just no, it's not front engine, because it hasn't got an engine, but is it that front engined roadster look compared to a mid-engine supercar look? The mid-engine's always just going to look a bit better.
Maybe. Sure. I don't know. I think that you can see where there's lots of design influences on the Cyberster, can't you? Lots of classic British references, lots of Jaguar in there. I think perhaps if you like that kind of thing, maybe. But the Emira is more Ferrari than it is classic British, isn't it? It's supercar looks, and supercar good looks, but it is about 20 grand more. So it is now anyway. It started off being about 76, I think, for the right spec Emira. It seems to have crept up in price to about 83. Anyway, and that car, of all the stuff we drove, that one really would have done better with a manual box.
We've had everything today, haven't we? We've had automatic internal combustion, we've had manual gearbox, internal combustion, we've had automatic electric, and weirdly enough, somehow, manual flappy paddle electric.
I really enjoyed that, much more than I thought I would.
I drove something today I never thought I'd drive, which was a manual, in inverted commas, electric car.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a manual classic car that's been converted, but a brand new one, fresh in the wrapper, fresh out the wrapper, should I say. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. Yeah, manual box in a Z4, that was nice, but £5 grand? That's an expensive option.
It is for something that's surely cheaper.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I'm pleased it exists, so I'm not going to complain. Yeah, some interesting stuff there. And as always, it's good to get behind the wheel and try some different things one after the other. You've got cars like the EV9, that was pretty comfortable.
Yeah, it was a wafty SUV, wasn't it? And I thought, what could you do with that? I don't know if we had one of those on a longer term test, because the only bad thing about the day, as we said, was the short amount of time you get in every car. So, I don't know, what would you have to do with the EV9? I suppose you could have it for a week and set off walking at one end of it and still not get to the other end of it, couldn't you?
You could go on
huge inside.
You go on holiday in it, literally.
You could do, yeah. You could spend a week in the back row, spend a week in the middle row, spend a week in the front row.
That's it. And then there was the MGHS, which I thought was fine, and you were particularly excited by.
It was just fine, wasn't it? It was just very, very homogeneous, very bland. So, yeah, I think if it had a complete EV powertrain, would it make it even less characterful? So actually, is the Hyundai technique of putting the flappy pedals and making their EV manual, does that just put it one step ahead everything else in terms of engagement? I think it probably does, because we said driving along in this thing, what am I doing? Okay, I'm looking where I'm going, but the radar guided cruise is doing a lot of it. Okay, I'm steering, but the lane keeping thing is doing a lot of it. Before the Blue Cruise free subscription ran out, I was literally press the button and take my hands off the wheel and let the car do the whole thing. Which I still don't get. Why is that not coming to Explorer or Capri?
I don't know. You just said to me that you don't get a heated screen either, which is insane.
No, I found out this week, no heated screen on the Ford Explorer. So you think the top 2 bits of tech that Ford Motor Company have ever come up with, well, heated screen's got to be on there, right up there, isn't it? It's number 1.
Yep.
As the unique selling point. There's a wonderful bit of kit that everybody can make use of. Now, whether it's number 2 or whether it's top 5 or top 10, it's certainly top 10, isn't it, Blue Cruise, in terms of tech and how well it works and what it does. And it does work well, doesn't it?
It does.
But yeah, why not on the latest and greatest 2 EVs? Why not? The technology obviously exists because this has it. Okay, I don't pay £18 a month or whatever it is for it, so we're not allowed to use the hardware that's built into the car that we've paid money for, which is a bit irritating, but where is it? Why not have it? Plus, I thought not missing a trick there. If they're aiming for subscription on everything, why release a car that doesn't have the ability to charge people for the subscription?
There you go. I think probably one of the overriding things for me today is that I can't believe how much things bong and beep constantly, and how much of a faff it is to turn that off easily. We already complained about touch screens and then tactile controls like the ones in the Emira being an absolute boon. Bring them back, please. Just buttons for certain things that you use all the time, but also make it simple to turn off all the driver assistance bits. So, much like the BMW Z4, which had a button just next to the hazard light switch, centre of the dash, press that one, turn stuff off. Fantastic. Why not? That's on our list. Dear Santa, please make it easy to turn stuff off. And I guess on that note, it's probably time to say goodbye. So, from me, Mike, goodbye.
And from me, Jim, it's goodbye. And from both of us, thank you to the SMMT for, well, another cracking day out, really. They're always really well organised, well attended, good to catch up with a couple of people we haven't seen for a while, and just generally have a nice day out and spend the day, even if we didn't go around the track, just spending a day at a racetrack is always a nice thing, isn't it? So thank you SMMT for the top fun day. Much appreciated. Thank you.
UK Motor Talk at the SMMT Regional Test Day, South 2024. A First Take Media production.